some people, both at Microsoft and outside of Microsoft, they don't like that I get the tips that I get and that I report what I report.
No, we love it.
Some people don't love it too much.
It's lunchtime, and this is Brad Anderson's Lunch Break. I get invited to attend tech events all the time in Las Vegas, and whenever I can, I like to make the quick trip from Redmond and meet with other tech leaders and learn about what they're doing.
So I got to ask you, we were talking about Pirates of Silicon Valley. Given the, the perspective that you've had of Microsoft in the industry, was that just like crazy watching that and like kind of reliving some of it?
There are very distinct phases of our industry, as you know.
Yep.
And I was, when the Mac came up in the early 80s and when Windows started happening in the mid 80s, I was not a part of the industry. I was a younger guy at the time, and I looked in on it from the outside. And I still do in a way, although obviously I play some small role today. When I went back to school for computers, I thought I missed it. I missed the great thing. I missed that awesome time when everything was changing.
The initial birth.
And then the internet happened,
Happened again.
Right, and then, mobile cloud happened. And you know what? It keeps happening, and that's beautiful. And so I think that's the coolest thing. I do look back on those years with great excitement. I still am very interested in that stuff. But I love that we're in it today. It's happening around us. And the change that we see today is in many ways even more dramatic.
It's more interesting than it was 20 years ago.
It really is.
And it's changing at a race that's 10x faster.
So I don't know if I can be nostalgic about the present, but it's awesome, right? Doing what we do.
I heard a great story about when you got in a big disagreement with Bill.
Which one?
It was something about PowerShell versus .NET.
Oh, WMI versus .NET.
Sorry, that was WMI versus .NET. I apologize.
So Bill had convinced himself that .NET was going to solve everything, and so he's on this mission to get everyone to use .NET. And so we go in for these management reviews. Okay, so here are the problems, and he'd be saying, "You got to rewrite everything in .NET." And I was just like, "Well, Bill, our hair's on fire, and I'm pretty sure a language is not going to help with that." But he just kept .NET, and it's just like, well. Anyway, so at some point I learned .NET, and that was the thing that, in fact, PowerShell was originally something called WMIC.
I know.
Which was WMI-based command line interface. And so when I started off rewriting that in .NET to understand it, and when I did that, I realized, wait, there's a better way to do it, and that became PowerShell.
And that became it.
Yeah, so.
Take myself too seriously,
although but it's massive. I mean, the numbers are massive.
I do feel a great responsibility, right? So something even as simple as I've written a review of a laptop. Somebody comes and says, "Hey, I bought that laptop. It cost $1,800," and then you're gulping for the next sentence because it's either going to be, "This was the greatest purchase I ever made. Thank you very much," or "You are an idiot and
also,
you just wasted my money."
So you really understand that when you give a perspective, a recommendation, people follow it.
I take it very seriously.
Kind of responsibility.
People will say to me, "You've had this device for 2 weeks. How come you haven't reviewed it?" And I was like, "Really?"
Right.
You have to use it. I do. I take that very seriously.
Now you said a couple of years ago that a couple of years IT got harder, but it also got more interesting.
Yeah,
tell me more about that perspective.
Well, how long were we basically running Windows 2000 and Windows 2003? We just did the same thing every day. You came in, you turned on the lights, you checked for crashed servers, you checked for hard drives, and it was fairly, honestly, boring.
Sure.
The products weren't changing that much. The business drivers weren't making the products change all that much, and we really fell into this universe of let's just never change anything because what we have now works and it's good enough. And then the cloud happened, and everybody kind of poo-pooed it as a marketing thing. But then people started looking at it and realizing, wow, we don't need to own our email. We don't need to there's all these little places where we could be offloading and getting more value out of our IT dollar. And those things, by the way, are really complicated. It's hard to move to the cloud in almost any way. There's a lot of concerns, and you have to be clever, and that, I think, is what makes it interesting. I don't think IT is something that you can just show up because you play Xbox and do well at. I think you have to be clever. And you see people at the conferences, and they're asking hard, interesting questions about these technologies, and it's, yeah, I get the high level. I need it to do this one small, precise thing, and it needs to do it in this way, and it's fun. It's like a big puzzle to figure that out. And I think we're in a new golden age that we haven't been in for since the 90s.
I'm going to give you the name of one of your books.
Okay.
And see if you can guess what it's currently selling for on Amazon.com.
Awesome. All right. Are negative numbers possible?
All right. Projects for Visual Basic 6.
Wow. So that was, by the way, an educational title. It was the probably third version of the very first book I ever wrote, which was Visual Basic, the Visual Basic book, which Visual Basic 3, I think. So I'm going to guess and say, because of its strange, rare nature, $4.99.
Man, you are close. $3.86.
Yeah. It's worth that much.
Next one. Windows Vista Secrets.
Jeez. That's not worth anything.
So I have to ask you, you know, identity theft is a serious crime.
Sure.
You know, Scott Guthrie's shirt here.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. You know, I've been a distinguished engineer for quite a long time. And I kept thinking, boy, what's it take to get technical fellow? I started wearing these red shirts and my career has just skyrocketed. I don't know what it is.
Maybe I need to learn from you on that one. So you are just a prolific author. You've written tons and tons of books.
Yep.
I actually went and looked them up on Amazon.
Wow.
Now they're all available, but they're not priced the same.
Nope, they're not.
All right. So we're gonna play a little game here. I'm gonna give you a title of one of your books.
Oh no.
And see if you can guess the price you can get it for today on Amazon.
Okay.
Microsoft.NET E-commerce Bible.
That was my first book. A dollar.
Huh? $37.42.
Okay, I was close there.
Yeah, that's like, you know, the one that started it, and the one that launched it.
It was. I was actually working at .com, and the book was kind of based on my experiences there, and we were a Microsoft shop.
There you go.
So everything was based on ASP, and we had just started shifting over to .NET. That was right around when that came out.
That's right.
They bombed. No fault of ASP. So I got laid off, and that actually kicked off my career doing consulting.
That's twice where a layoff has led to like fantastic things to you.
Yeah.
I think it's a good lesson in there.
Yeah, don't be afraid of layoffs.
That's right. Don't be afraid of change.
Well, you know, I think through all that, I just like any other IT pro at that time, I was jumping jobs every 6 months or a year or whatever. And I think I developed kind of the attitude now, which is take care of your career and you don't need to worry about your job.
And you know, that's really important. I actually heard one person say one time, your manager may have significant control of your job, but you own your career.
You own your career, and you have to feed it, and you have to take care of it. And if you do, when you need it, it'll be there for you. And then layoffs aren't scary.
Look, I am this person, the kind of old school PC focused, fogey from the 1990s. I mean, I still approach the world from that perspective, and I talk about change, and I preach change, and I believe in it, and I try. But it's hard sometimes. You do get stuck in that. Yeah, and it's just, you need to embrace that change, and it's a process. It really is. I mean, I'll never get work done on an iPad. I hear this all the time. This is crazy. They're going to scale this back. This push has been temporary. It's going to stop. It's going to go back, and it's like, guys, no, that's not how the world works.
Okay, so Jeffrey, over the last 10 years, how many autographs do you think you've signed? How many PowerShell boxes?
Quite a few, but more selfies.
More selfies. Oh, yeah, sure.